Nusayba bint Ka'b, Arabic, also known as Umara, was one of the first women to embrace Islam and was known for her services in various battles in defending Islam. One of the major battles he participated in was the Battle of Uhud, where he dedicated himself to protecting the Prophet from enemy attacks. Apart from the Battle of Uhud, he was also involved in several important events in Islamic history such as the Second Pledge of Aqaba, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Battle of Hunayn, and the Battle of Yamama. Umara or Nusayba bint Ka'b bin Amr bin Auf bin Mabsul came from the Al-Ansariya, Al-Khazrajiyya, and Najariya, Al-Mazaniyya, Al-Madaniyya circles. He was the brother of Abdullah bin Ka'b, who died in the Battle of Badr. Nusayba is the wife of Zayd bin Hashim al-Mazini and Niyari, and has two children, namely Abdullah and Habib. After Zayd bin Hashim died, he married Ghaziya bin Amr al-Mazini and Niyari. In his second married life, he was blessed with a son named Tamim and a daughter named Kawla. Nusayba's Islam began with the preaching of Mus'ab bin Umair, who was appointed by the Prophet Muhammad to invite the people of Medina to worship only Allah. In the following year, he went with Mus'ab bin Umair along with 73 men and 1 woman to appear before the Prophet Muhammad in the Second Pledge of Aqaba. Battle of Uhud. The Battle of Uhud was a war where the Monsoon troops suffered defeat against the Quraysh troops. This was because the Muslim archer troops who were ordered to remain at the foot of the Uhud hill in the west came down to take the spoils of war. This situation was exploited by the Quraysh troops to attack from behind and succeeded in killing most of the Muslims. The Quraysh troops began searching for the Prophet Muhammad in order to kill him. Seeing this incident, several Muslim troops gathered to protect the Prophet Muhammad. One of the troops at the forefront was Nusayba bint Ka'b and her 2 children. This story tells about the female companion of the Prophet, Nusayba bint Ka'b, or known as Umara. In the Uhud war, when the Muslims were in a state of retreat, in a state of chaos, and the Messenger of Allah was left alone, there was no one to protect him. And Umara was the one who turned around to protect the Prophet. When the army of 700 people ran up the hill, Umara remembered the Messenger of Allah who was left alone with the enemy. He immediately turned around again and didn't think about whether he was ready or not with his weapons. The story of Umara is very heroic, and she used her body as a shield for the Messenger of Allah, until around 20 swords fell on her body during the Battle of Uhud. One of them was at the back of the neck and almost cut it to protect the Prophet for his great love. Umara was one of the female Ansar soldiers who participated in the most wars with the Prophet Muhammad. In fact, Umara was a medical officer whose job was to bring drinks to the Muslim male troops and treat their wounds. However, he came after seeing the chaos that occurred among the Muslims at that time and knowing that Ibn Sumayya, who was part of the infidel troops, wanted to kill the Prophet Muhammad Umara had the nickname the Red Lion because he was very brave and bloody in defending Islam. In the Uhud battle, it is said that when the Muslims were in a state of chaos, one of the people who returned to protect the Prophet was Umara. She protected Rasulullah without carrying a weapon, and when the enemy was about to cut Rasulullah, Umara blocked the enemy's sword with her body. Every time she held back with her body, Umara was relieved and smiled when she saw that the Messenger of Allah was not injured. There were at least 20 arrow, spear and sword wounds on Umara's body, including the most serious one on her neck. He was very willing to die for the sake of Rasulullah even when he was being carried home on a stretcher, being treated, and having his wound stitched up. He immediately stood up and covered the wound when he found out that Rasulullah had come to visit him, and he even said that he was in good condition. Even though at that time blood was pouring out and penetrated her hijab. Rasulullah then asked, "O Umara, what do you hope for from all this struggle?" Then Umara answered, "O Messenger of Allah, I only hope for one thing. Pray for me to be your neighbor in heaven." Rasulullah also prayed that Allah SWT would make Umara and her family members of heaven. Apart from the Uhud war, General Umara, along with her husband and son, also took part in the events of Hudaybiyah, Khaybar War, Hunayn War, and Yamama War.